I want to speak about how to use stories in Chinnuch. And so we'll break it up into two. We'll talk about how to use the stories, and then we'll talk about how to collect stories. Where you get people always wondering where you get stories from. Besides impact books, which everybody should have a copy for. One for during the year, one for during Pesach when the other one's comments. It's all the Shem Shemayim, of course. So
anybody wants a copy of Impact, just let us know.
Make sure you let us know. There are a few misconceptions. I'll show you, what you want to do with it. Whether it's Chinnuch in your home, or those most of you plan on going out, being mechanchim, one way or another, being involved in Rabbonus of the Torah. So there is a documented incident in one of Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein's Svarim. It was a documented incident. A man walked into an automobile dealership on a Friday afternoon, and he bought a car for $50,000. Friday afternoon in the United States, the guy goes in, buys a car for $50,000. He gets in the car and he drives straight over to a used car dealership. He says to the guy, "Listen, I just bought this car for $50,000. I'll sell it to you for $20,000. The guy says, "Why do you want to sell a $50,000 car for $20,000? He says, "Don't ask questions. You make $30,000 bucks." The guy says, "I don't know. Sounds a little funny. Let me think about it." Walks out of the office, calls the police. Says, "You got a funny situation." The cop comes down, says to the guy, "Why do you want to sell a $50,000 car for $20,000? The guy smiles sweetly at the cop. Says, "None of your business." Policemen don't like that. Trust me, from personal experience. Policemen don't like that. So the cop says, "Look, I'm going to make it my business. Let me see your credit card." He takes the credit card. He calls the company. It's Friday in America. The company's closed for the weekend. This guy, "Sorry, I'm going to have to lock you up. We'll call Monday morning." Locks him up. Monday morning, he called the credit card company. Sure enough, everything's in order. Got a credit line. It's his card. Everything's fine. The cop comes back to prison, gives him the card. "Thank you very much. My mistake. You're free to go." The guy says, "Thank you very much." He goes straight to an attorney's office and he files a lawsuit against the police department for false arrest. Planned the entire story start to finish to do something that looks questionable. Perfectly legal to sell your car for $30,000 less. You can give it away if you want to. Do something that looks very, very sneaky, suspicious. He did it on a Friday afternoon where he knew the office would be closed. He'd get maximum lockup time over the weekend. And then in court, he could plead emotional trauma and distress. And he got a settlement of $3.5 million. Documented story. You like that? Yeah. And he wasn't even Jewish. You'd think, my wife said to me, "Well, who would think of that?" I said, "Millionaires. That's why we're not, because we didn't think of it." So, here's a story that is, Rav Zilberstein has it in his Sefer. It is not brought down in the, told us a Chafetz Chaim, and it's not brought down in any of the Jewish books. But if you take a look at the story, you can use the story tremendous. I probably have told this story more than any other story, usually at the beginning of talks, because there's a tremendous Musar Haskell. What I use those stories for is that you take a look at the car. How much is the car worth? The car's worth $50,000, the car's worth $20,000. Car's worth $3.5 million. Right? That means that there are many things in life where the value is actually hidden. We ourselves don't appreciate how much something is worth. Then I use it as a springboard to talk about, usually about Talmud Torah, as far as the Yeshivas of Talmud Torah, how much every word of Torah is worth. Chazal say that Divrei Elul She'olam Yiskayim Aleim, that the whole world stands on Talmud Torah, and on and on and on. And it's the most difficult thing to relate to is Talmud Torah because it's intangible. It's something. It's hevel. It's Chazal call it vapor. And then you can use the story. The story gives you a Pesach to go in anywhere you want with the story. Now you can use it for other things. You can tell a story to your daughter before asking her to do the dishes. So you have no idea how valuable it is for you to do the dishes, and you don't have no idea what is going to happen to you if you don't do the dishes. And a lot of different things you can do with the story. So the story becomes something, and it doesn't have to have any connection whatsoever to what you're about to talk about. Rarely, if it's a good story, will people come over to you. There are always those people who will come over and say, "I didn't quite get the," usually a Yeshiva guy, "I didn't quite get the connect. What was the nakuda that connected it to the thing?" Most people, it's a good story. People appreciate the story. They'll let you live. Sometimes you get the people who come over, and we'll deal with that in a second. That's one example of a story. The other one is what I wouldn't even call a story as much as an incident. The New York Times once got together. The editors of the New York Times got together. And they had to decide on a font that they were going to use for the print of the New York Times. So the board of directors got together and they chose a font that doesn't dot the I. can write English without dotting the I. Why did they do that? Because they made a cheshbon. They print about 8 million copies of the New York Times every day. They made a cheshbon that the ink that they sell, that they save, by not dotting the I's in the New York Times will amount to several $1 million in the course of a couple of years. So they didn't dot the I's in the New York Times, right? I made the next suggestion, of course, is that they shouldn't cross the T's. They save even more ink. The best suggestion would be if the New York Times just closed down in Wisconsin. That would certainly save a lot of time like that. Well, what you do is that you take an incident. Now, what I generally do with that story, I generally tell that story in conjunction with another story. And the other story, it doesn't have to be, it can be independent. The other story I told the guy went to Ohr Someach. The guy came into Ohr Someach years ago, many years ago. And I said to the guy, when he came in, a question that stumps many people, even older. This guy was about 21 at the time. And I said to him, started schmoozing with him. The guy was completely fried. And I said to him, what's your goal in life? Which is something that stumps many people, because many people haven't worked that out. So the guy says to me, well, he is a member of the marching band for Ohio State University. He's at Ohio State University. He's a member of the marching band. You know, are you Americans? Is anybody here not American? Oh, if you're not, you should be. But he's a member of the Ohio State marching band at football games, college football games, at halftime, at the break, at halftime. So they bring out the marching band, but they kind of annoy people for 20 minutes till they start the second half. That's the function of the marching band. So he plays tuba. He plays the tuba. He's the senior tuba player for the Ohio State University marching band. And he said his goal in life was that as the senior tuba player, in the biggest game of the year when Ohio State plays Michigan, it's the big game of the year. So the marching band spells out in human formation. They spell out the word Ohio State. And the senior tuba player has the singular honor and distinction and covet of being the one who gets to dot the I in the word Ohio. Right? He stands there with his tuba. That looks like a dot, and he dots the I in the word Ohio. That's what the guy said to me. I remember he said it to me, and I'm looking at him thinking to myself, no, really. You know, there's got to be something more than that. You plan on living beyond 23, right? And so there's got to be something bigger than dotting the I in the word Ohio. So then I thought to myself, that's an interesting zog. A dot in Hebrew is a dagesh, right? Dot is a dagesh. Dagesh means emphasis. So the guy said his goal in life is to dot the I. It's the goal of the whole society. The whole goal of the whole society is to put a dagesh on the I. That's the goal. That's the society we live in. The New York Times is telling you, Pshat, is take the dot off the I. Take the dot off the I. Take the emphasis off the I a little bit. I is difficult. There are a lot of I's in the New York Times, and a little bit, one step at a time, and you'll see they make progress in life. But that's a story. That's a combination of stories. And it can be used in many different areas, because I can tell the story totally out of connection. Most people would think, oh, it has to do with a chesed talk, or a talk about Beit HaMachaver. It doesn't have to be. It could also be talking about Beit HaMachaver, you can talk about Tefillah Torah, it doesn't matter. Bring in the story. If it's a good story, people like it. Then you say, okay, just like you take little steps in the New York Times, so you take little steps in growth in life in Shtagi and Ruchnis. That's how you use the story. The mistake people make is, they're somehow subconsciously, they think they're being graded. Okay, somebody's giving you a grade. You're not going to get graded. If it's good, it's okay. It's not a bechina. Nobody's giving you a grade. It should have some sort of tenuous connection, but it doesn't have to. As long as it makes the point. How did the yesod of a story is? I think it was, who was it? The Chazon Ish. I think the Chazon Ish said that the best musar. The best musar is to what do you call it? Is to read stories of the Gedolim. The stories of the Gedolim, it goes in further, it goes more. It affects the person in a different way. That's the second example. The third example, I'm going to give you 3 examples. Third example is Rabbi Yashiv Zatzal, documented, also a Yitzchak Zilberstein. He says that at one point in his life, early on, I think Rabbi Yashiv lived downstairs from a shul. They lived in a little cellar, a hovel that they lived in when they first got married, whatever it was. And he writes, his lashon in the book is he writes that Rabbi Yashiv would go from his cellar up to the base bench, from the base bench back down to his home, and he writes that for a period of several years, it's his lashon, Rabbi Yashiv did not leave the building. He didn't leave the building. I don't know what that means exactly. I guess upstairs, they have a shul with a mikveh or whatever it is. I don't know what it means exactly. But that's what he said. He writes for a period, he had nowhere, where is he going? He had absolutely nowhere else to go. He got a minute. What else could a person need? So when you tell a story like that, you have to be selective, obviously, who you're telling it to. I wouldn't tell that as a story to a group of completely secular people who are trying to interest in the normalcy of Torah Jews. I wouldn't tell them, oh yeah, we're very balanced people. By the way, Rabbi Yasha didn't leave his house for a period of several years. That's not, you have to be selective. It's like Bali Chuvas. I always tell them when you go home, they ask you, what did you learn in yeshiva? Don't share with them idea, oh, you kill Amalek babies. That's not the first thing I would tell somebody who's trying to interest in Yiddishkeit. So you don't go into the Yeshivas Torah. Wait till a little bit later on. But so you have to be selective on what you're saying and who you're saying it to. But the story, if you're trying to inspire people to a little bit more, so I don't expect anybody here not to leave the building either. But when we hear the story like that, we think there's, maybe I can be mischazik in my learning a little bit. I'm not a Rebbe Yeshiva. I'm not gonna, and I am gonna leave the building, especially when my teenage daughters come home and leave the building very quickly. But at least to use it to be mischazik when it comes to Talmud Torah, to use it as a springboard to be mischazik Torah. Okay, that is the just an example. I just want to give you an example of three stories. Now, when you get up to speak. There's several mistakes people make. First of all, people who speak at family simchas, they always tell you, I don't know who they is, but people are under the impression, start with a joke. Do you ever see people try to start with a joke? It's a very big mistake. It's a very big mistake to start with a joke. Because if you start with a joke, number one, if you in general are you considered a person who has a sense of humor or not? If you're not usually funny, chances are you're not going to be funny then either. And not only that, it's even more loaded against you because you're even more nervous. You're even more nervous. If you tell a joke, part of telling the joke is the punchline. You have to have the timing to do it, and if you don't have it, so then it's going to fall flat. Then you're going to get one or two people give that nervous laugh just to make you comfortable. Then what you do is you derail yourself, because if you're not used to speaking in public and you start off flat, it's very, very unnerving. And you're kind of you're de-energized, you're diffused, and then the rest of it bombs. It's a mistake. You don't have to start with a joke. If you want to tell a joke, out or out, start speaking, and in the middle, at some point, you can tell a joke where nobody's expecting it. They won't even know that you were trying to tell a joke. If it goes flat, they didn't even know it was meant to be a joke. And if it works, it works.
So I'll ask you a question on it later.
You're right. Yeah, that was the joke. Yeah. So it could be very nice. What you could do is you can start with a story. If you want to start with a story is safe, because a story is something that doesn't have to be funny. Just remember, gentlemen, Greek entertainment, Greek tragedy was considered a form of entertainment. You go to movies, there are movies that have tragic endings. That was a movie. People go to disaster movies or horror movies. That's entertainment. It's great to go into a movie and have the wits scared out of you. That's considered entertainment. Entertainment doesn't mean you have to get it doesn't have to be a comedy routine. Entertainment means that you are keeping people, they're amused. Amused doesn't mean they're laughing. Amused, it means it's an amusement. You go to an amusement park, people scream on roller coasters. That's not amusing. It's not funny. People get paid, they get on a roller coaster, and they can't wait to get off, right? Now that's amusing. The people actually pay to then get off and say, oh good, I'm glad to have my feet on solid ground again. You just paid $6 to be able to say, I'm glad to have my feet on solid ground. So you don't have to get up. It doesn't have to be a comedy routine. You start off with a story. The story is very safe. Now, one thing I'm not sure about, some speakers, you'll hear them tell us, like, I'll get up and say, I heard this amazing story. I don't know. I think that it's good to use an adjective. I'm not positive. I think it's good to use an adjective because I have heard this amazing story. Then they tell you a story, and you think to yourself, "Ooh, that was amazing." And I'm like, "Whoa, that was amazing." But he said it was amazing, and everybody else is looking like that. So you walk away. Ooh, that was an amazing story. I'm not sure. I'll say something like it's an interesting story. I generally go the amazing. Wow, this is an amazing story. Sometimes it's like what you should never tell somebody. You got to tell you this hilarious joke. Never introduce a joke by saying it's hilarious, because then you've upgraded his expectation. And then if it's not as hilarious as you think, it could be funny, but it didn't match up to what you said. So he's not going to laugh because he was expecting something much stronger. You understand? So if you say, "Well, it's an amazing story," you may end up becoming a letdown. Now, one of the things that I try to do with stories, I'll try to cover the whole subject, is to use it in conjunction with a chazal or or some sort of vort from the Torah, something Torah-dic with the story. You're not getting up there, especially one of my pet peeves. Your B'nai Torah, Talmidei Chachamim, you get up, you have to sound like that, and you have to have Torah content when you speak or when you teach. You should never speak ever without any Torah content. I learned this. I was at years ago, also going back probably about 20 years ago at Ohr Someach, we had an Erusin. So I got up and I spoke at the Erusin, and I told a story, a mashal, whatever it was, and I thought it was a good talk. When it was well received, I sat down, and one of the other Rebbe was there, and he leans over to me and he said, "You didn't say a word of Torah." I was like, "Oh, yes." He said, "I must have, yeah." And I felt horrible. That's what you want to do. That's how you want to look. You got to get stood up. You want to get up and tell stories that make jokes. That's what you want to look. I said, "Oh, that Torah. Get up. There's got to be some sort of Torah content." A story is best when you give it with the Torah content. Sometimes you can introduce the Torah content before the story, and sometimes you can use the story before they're going to use the story first, so then you get their attention. So, for example, Torah says Lech Lecha by Avram Avinu. So there are all sorts of. The Farshim Lech Lecha is the first thing that was said to any Jew ever. First words to Avram Avinu, the first Jew in history, Lech Lecha. Some of the Farshim say Lech Lecha means, number one, that the Klal Yisrael, your descendants, are always going to be Ma'aseh similar one, and they're always going to be moving around, always going to be in Golus. Lech Lecha, that's Ma'aseh similar. We're going to be in Golus. Lech Lecha also means move in life. Move. You have to move. You have to grow. Lech Lecha, the tachlis of a Jew. First thing, Avraham Avinu told Lech Lecha, grow. You have to do something with your life. So one of the stories I tell to emphasize, then you could tell you said it. Now you want to drive it home, so people will remember it. If they don't remember the zog, they'll remember the story. They may remember the zog. They may remember the zog. So I used to tell. My brother told me he was once in Telstone, not once. I mean, he lives there. So he was once walking in Telstone, and a guy walks over to him with a French accent, and he says to him, "Excuse me." He says to him in French, "Excuse me, where's Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi?" So my brother says to him, "There is no Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi here." He says, "Yes, there is." He says, "I'm sorry, I've been living here over 30 years. There's no Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi in Telstone." The guy says, "Yes, there is. They told me," he didn't, my brother didn't say Telstone. He says, "There's no Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi here." He says, "Listen, my friend lives in Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi in Bnei Brak, and the cab dropped me off. Rechov Eliyahu 17, even said that what's one of the buildings over there. Now, where is Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi?" My brother says, "Well, there's a Rechov Eliyahu Hanavi in Bnei Brak, but you're not in Bnei Brak, you're in Telstone." What happened was, it turned out there was an Arab cab that picked up on him that he was a tourist, took him from Yerushalayim, dropped him off in Telstone, told him it's Bnei Brak. And he even pointed to one of the buildings and said, "That's the thing." And then when the guy went to the back of the car to take and get a suitcase, the Arab, he had left his jacket on the front seat, so the Arab, he helped himself to his wallet as well. So this guy's wandering around Telstone, he happened to run into my brother, he invited him in, he showed him, sent him off on his way. So now that got your attention, right? The story got your attention. Now, what do you use the story for? That a person has to know in life what you're Lech Lecha. You have to know your direction. You have to not only keep going, but you have to know where you're trying to get to. If you don't know where you're trying to get to, you're going to end up in trouble. First, he has to know, where am I trying to get to? Lech Lecha is what I have to do. Where are you trying to go with Lech Lecha? I was once, when I first got married, this isn't a story I was going to tell you, so this isn't an official story. I'll tell you a story. When I first got married, my wife and I were driving from Chicago to Columbus. Now, Chicago's over here, Columbus is over here. If you know anything what the United States looks like, Chicago's here, Columbus is here. So we started driving, and it should be a 7-hour drive straight. My dad sat down with me, gave me directions how to get out of Chicago. Chicago, as you leave the city to hit the interstate, to leave the city, there are about 16 lanes leaving the city. So my dad sat down with me, he said, "Well, you got to get the third one from the right, then quickly get to the fifth one from the left, and then quick right back in, and then you hit it." I'm looking at that as more or less like what you feel like when your Chavrus is talking to the Meshiv and you're standing there over your shoulder. Like, "So did you get it?" "Yeah, I got it." "Yeah, you didn't hear a word that was said." So my father says to me, "Did you get it?" I said, Yeah. And we both knew that I didn't. So my wife and I get in the car, we start driving. We start driving for about an hour, I remember driving. And as I got off on that 16-laner, I had that sinking thing. I don't think I did this right. It was more like I just got to flip a coin, take a lane. And I was there, we're driving for about an hour, and also my wife says, "We're headed for Detroit." And Chicago is here, Columbus is here, Detroit is here. I said, "No, we're not." Rational male response, right? She saw a sign, but I said, "No." Drive another 10 minutes, I remember seeing the sign, Detroit, 235 miles. Right? So we're headed for Detroit. So I said, "This isn't good. It's midnight. Pull off the road, go into a truck stop." There's a lady behind the counter in a truck stop at midnight. You can imagine what she was like. And in a truck stop in the United States. And I walk up there and I said, "Hi," I looked kind of Jewish, and I said, "Hi, can you tell me how to get to Columbus?" She goes, 1 second. She goes, Roy. Goes Roy, a trucker. So Roy comes out. They're all named Roy, by the way. Roy comes out. Looks like he stepped off the cover of Truckers magazine. He's got the mutton-chopped sideburns. He's got a belly of beer in one hand, the beer in the second hand, the third beer in his mouth. And Roy comes over. He goes, Roy, can you tell this guy how to get to Columbus? I remember Roy puts his foot up on the chair. It's going to take some heavy thinking now. He puts his foot up on the chair. He says, well, where are you coming from? So I said, Chicago. Chicago? Boy, are you messed up. And then he calls the other guy. He goes, hey, guys, this guy coming from Chicago. Boy, is he messed up. And they're all laughing. And I did not find it amusing, funny, any of the above adjectives. So I always use that also in conjunction. There's a story, personal story. You better know not only where you're going, but how to get there. And that's how you put the stories together. The next point I have written on paper is when you're telling a story, you can do it spontaneously if you want. You don't have to have it planned. I generally have it planned out, and if a story pops into my head like that one did, so spontaneously, sometimes if it fits perfectly, so go right ahead and tell the story. Now, when you tell a story, you do not have to, can I just trouble you for a little bit of not fizzy drink? Yeah, that's one of the things, the purple. They don't, not fizzy. There are certain things you don't do when you speak. Don't drink fizzy drinks because it's undignified if you start burping while you're speaking. And the other tip somebody once gave me was don't ever put ice in your drink. Thank you very much. Don't put ice in your drink, because if you put ice in a drink, you might swallow one in the middle of going to a coughing fit, which can happen. It has happened to me. Because one time, this was a major event, and I forgot. They gave me a cup of water, and I didn't check it. There was ice, and I drank, and I felt it going down, and I was about to start choking and coughing in front of 400 people, which I'd rather not do. And it purely on adrenaline, pure adrenaline as it was happening. It's one of those split-second things. I'm thinking to myself, Kaplan, you can't do this now. And I just kind of willed my way through it. It has happened. I wouldn't have to be at a Gateways event. Just drinking regular water. So I drank, and as I went, yeah. So I started coughing. There's a doctor sitting in the front row. He goes, just Rabbi Kaplan, just take it easy. And here I was drinking water. So there are ways to get out of it. In public speaking, there are ways to, when you make a total fool of yourself, there are recoveries. So there I just said, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, usually I'm good at drinking water. To the audience also, there was this relaxed laugh. They're just happy that you're not rattled. And then there's another fallback. I have a fallback story for when I do something klutzy, like if I spill water, which happens all the time. You have water, you reach where you spill it. At Yeshiva, at their annual Malka, I was actually spilled the water and it landed right on the Rosh Yeshiva. So there are certain situations which are rather, unpleasant. So one of the things I do to recover from that, to try to recover from that, is to, one of the things I do to, here I got it, is to have a recovery story. So if I ever do that, spill water, and the audience is the audience also feels they're nervous for you, they feel bad for you. So I tell the audience, anytime I do something like that, any faux pas, I say, this is not the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me speaking in public. So I'm and what is, right? What is, this you'll pay for, right? Yeah. So I tell the guys, and I have this, I tried it, and I see that it works. The most embarrassing thing that happened to me was when at Ohr Someach in my early days, I was giving a talk. We had a group there for the summer, and I was giving a talk with about 10 minutes left in the talk. I said, does anybody have any questions? So a hand shoots up from the back, and it's very flattering. Wow, somebody's about to ask me. I said, yes. He goes, yeah, what time does this lecture end? Right? That was the most embarrassing thing that ever happened. And then the people see that you're okay with it, so they're okay with it. Relaxed, then you can go on without losing the energy. So if you're going to tell a story, you don't have to introduce it by saying, and I'd like to tell you a story, that you can say for your kids. Adults don't want to feel that they're being spoken down to, and it's particularly true of ladies' audiences. Ladies are sometimes more difficult to speak to than men. Men, if I would come in and tell you stories, you'd be glad to hear that. I don't want to hear a shear, Meditesa by him. So anyway, tell you a shear. Why should he give you the shear? Men would be glad to hear stories. Ladies want to feel, it's a very difficult thing, because they want to feel that you're not talking down to them, because they're, we're also people. right? But Lamaisa, you know, but Lamaisa they can't. Lamaisa, they're ladies, you know. So you got to draw. So it's very tricky to do it in a way that they don't feel that you're talking down to them. One of the advantages that you have with experience is, once you have credibility with them, you can get away. Reb Zev left, could get up and tell them stories all day, and they'll accept it, and that was it. If a young guy comes in and he's in the beginning stages, like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are telling us stories? We expected content. And then your content better be story-laden, right? And you better be able to disguise it well. So if you get up and say, well, this is story, it's a story, it sounds like story time. So some of the adjectives, some of the techniques are, first of all, just to start. Just start talking. I gave a talk to ladies the other night. I just started by saying, I don't know if any of you have been in the Mir Yeshiva. I told a story about a bus. Something happened on one of the Mir buses. I didn't say, oh, I have a story. I didn't start. I just said, I don't know if any of you have been to Mir, but Mir, there are a lot of buses. And I told the story without introducing it at all. Number one, you don't have to introduce it. Number two, you could always say, for example, and then tell the story. You didn't call it a story. Number three, you could say there was an incident. An incident took place, and if you want to sound really good, like I did earlier, I said a documented incident. Ooh, document. Everybody's picturing something from 14th century Spain. A documented incident. No, it just happened to be in one of my own books. That's documented. That's a documented incident. So if you do that, then once in a while you throw in the word story. That way you give it a certain variety. There's a certain variety, and it doesn't come across as storytelling time. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Well, Tom's lecture over.
Very good. I said, come here, sit over here so I see when I spill the water.
We'd like you to speak even longer than this.
Yeah, I know all about it, Man, go ahead.
There's a Gemara that says, like, Rebbe used to start off with a joke before he gave a speech.
I don't think that Rava's joke was like our jokes. Somehow first of all, it was Rabba, not Rava, and second of all, I don't know if his joke was quite, his joke was probably, he went over a Yerushalmi or something. That was their idea of, Chaim Kanievsky's idea of Bittul Torah is to learn Eov. So for us, that would be called Amelus or Yura. If somebody caught you with Eov, what are you doing learning Nach? Say it's all relative. A shir for sure. A shir you should know. I've seen big people. I know Magidei Shur Gemara shir. You better tell a lot of jokes. Because Gemara is a very difficult thing to teach a shir. That's a different thing. The Milsa of the Bichusa is a different thing. But remember, the opposite is true also, because the Gemara also says, and then they sat there with total mora. Right? So we don't do this or that, But you could. You start off in a way to just kind of loosen things up a little bit. The problem is in our door we're plenty loose. They don't need to get loosened. In our door they're plenty loose. I don't think. So there is a concept, because I'll say it, and therefore we do have to incorporate it. That's true. You're right. There's a milsa de dichusa. What the milsa de dichusa is just something a little lighter. It could be a vort. It could be something a little lighter, not straight into the pnei Yeshua, that sort of thing. Okay.
How do you connect with people? So is there anything you have to connect with them? No, you're just saying over your step or whatever.
What do you mean to connect? What do you mean to connect?
I don't know, you come out of the yeshiva world or whatever, you're talking to a bunch of people, like, we'll try to pretty much hold.
Depends who you're talking to. There are all sorts of audiences. They're old and frum, they're young and frum, they're old and fry, they're fry as an egg, they're young and fry, also so a lot is ein chacham kabbalah nisayim. A lot is I've been in the trenches. I've been mashed, and my first public talk ever in the United States. My wife's from Columbus, not my fault. That's why I was driving there. And the shul that she was raised in was a modern Orthodox shul, where 80% probably of the constituents are not Shomer Shabbos. So I just started Ohr Someach, and the local rabbi asked me to give a drasha on Shabbos. Never gave a drasha before, a public drasha. Even in my bar mitzvah, I got away without one. Never gave a public drasha. He told me, okay. I was very nervous, and I think to myself, what can I possibly do? What's my goal? Now, this is a different topic for a different time, a different topic in public speaking. There's a whole science of public speaking. But the first rule of public speaking, which most people fail to think about, is what am I trying to do right now? What am I trying to do? A guy gets up at a Sheva Brachas, and he gives a Musar Shmutz. And that's totally inappropriate. I've been at Levi at memorial services where people got told jokes. That's totally inappropriate. So a guy gets up at a Sheva Brachas, he gives a Musar Shmutz, or a Bacher gets up and gives marriage advice. I've seen that. A Bacher gets up and he gives the couple marriage advice. He's like, now he asks you for Musar, nobody asks for advice. You have to identify what you're trying to do. Why am I speaking right now? What's my purpose in speaking? So for example, the Sheva Brachas, your purpose is to be Masameach L'chos and Kala, give them a bracha, give your parents some nachas if they're there, and sit down. Those are your 4 purposes. Right? That's what you want to do. And to get up there and give a whole Musar shoes and a fire and brimstone and say, I was once at a bris. The guy gets up at the bris, there were maybe 5 B'nai Torah there, a whole bunch of Balabatim, ladies on the other side of the mechitza. And I remember the Baal Simcha got up, we're sitting there, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a piece of schnitzel in front of me, and the guy gets up at the simcha and he gets those, okay, now I'm going to say my pilpul. He said those words, the Baal Simcha said that. They went and gave a whole pilpul. I'm looking around, there are 5 people who could understand it. Of those 5, I know at least one wasn't listening, because that was me. The ladies certainly were not listening. What was the purpose of doing that? What were you trying to do? So I got up in front of this as a modern Orthodox crowd, and I'm the only blackie there. And I think to myself, all I want to do is shatter the stereotypes. That's all I want to do. I'm not trying to change anybody's life. It's nothing else. All I want to do is, it's what I felt was a hostile crowd, and I just want to shatter the stereotype, because there have been a couple other B'nai Torah in town also. When they got up to speak, it was always like, that sort of thing. Okay, let's shatter this from stereotype. So we're going back almost 30 years. We're going back almost 30 years. So the Olympics were on at the time. My in-laws had a TV, so I watched the Olympics. Part of some of the Olympics back in the 80s. I watched some of the Olympics. Then when I got up, I put together a talk based on the Olympics. And they loved it. The people loved it. The people, it was very interesting. I made sure to have some Torah in there. It was very entertaining. It was well received. So there was one old man in the shul, a European guy, hangover. There's always one of those in the modern Orthodox shul that doesn't think much of the Rav, doesn't think much of anybody. He's one of these guys who learned in Yeshivas pre-war, and he knows all about, the Rav is just a YU guy, and he's already he had real rebellion in Europe, and he came to America. So he comes over and he goes, "Oh, David, I see you watch quite a bit of the Olympics." Right? So much for shattering stereotypes. That wasn't the reaction. That wasn't what I was looking for. Okay, so the rest of you have to always know the connection is you have to learn up the audience. What are they trying? Who are they? Where are they? But that's for a different time. That's public speaking, right? I'm just talking about a user. I mean, we'll do that a different time. In public speaking, it's the whole science. I don't think that you have to research stories. I personally am not a big story researcher. So people say to me, "Is that story true?" Well, it's true that I heard it. It's true that I heard it, or it's true that I read it. Or it's true that I plagiarized it. It's true. Is the story true? I didn't interview anybody, and even if you did, who said that they got the story right? No, it's a story good. It has a lesson. Chazal used Misholim all the time. Misholim were not true. It didn't happen. So I don't spend time researching stories. People tiny, if they know that the story has really happened, the story is true. Okay, I had a story, a guy heard this, B'Shem and Odom Godel. There was a group of Kashrus Mashgiach went to Japan. Hear the story. A group of Kashrus Mashgiach went to Japan. They get to Japan, they get to the counter, they have a connecting flight. So the lady at the counter says to them, okay, it's $200 more for the connecting flight. No, that's not true. We bought our ticket. It would go all the way through. No, $200. So they're getting upset. The guy said, come on. They start arguing with her. So she turns to her colleague at the desk, and under her breath, she curses them in Japanese. You don't need to be a genius to know when you've been cursed. They curse them. These guys are tired. They're jet-lagged. They're frustrated. So one of them looks at the other one. He says under his breath, Sheyamusu misa mishuna. Which roughly means may they die a painful death. So she looks at it. She says in broken English, go to office. They're down the little corridor, there's an office. They walk down the corridor, they knock on the door. Come in. They open the door. It's a Japanese colonel sitting behind the desk. Yes, gentlemen, says it flew to you. Gentlemen, what can I do for you? Well, she's giving us a hard time. Here are our tickets. I guess, let me see the tickets. Give the tickets. The guy takes out his pen. He initials the tickets. You can get on the plane. Turned out the colonel's name was Shayamusu Misamshuna. So when they said Shayamusu Misamishuna, so she thought they had protexia with the colonel. She got nervous. She sent it to the colonel. Right? Now, I used that story to emphasize Hashgacha Pratis. Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hashgacha is everywhere you go. Now, people inevitably ask me, is that story true? So I have two reactions. Number one, it's true that I heard it, and I was told to b'shem and gadol. Number two, if it's not true, I would love to meet the person who made that up and hang out with him. I mean, this is somebody, life is going to be interesting around a person like that. You understand? I don't care if the story is true or not. I really couldn't care less if the story is true. I'm not going to spend time researching it, so I got better things to do with my time. I'm not going to research the story. If it works, it works. It doesn't work, so drop it. Who cares? Chassidish Maisalach are true. They're not true. Maybe if they happen, some of them happen, probably a quarter of them happen, probably none of them happen. Each one with a different Rebbe. Who cares? As long as the message, but there's a message. If the message is no worse than emotion. The type of stories that I try not to tell are miracle stories. I'll tell miracle stories. Nisim. I'll tell a story that has no bearing on me. If I hear something about was Ruach HaKodesh, or was the Baal Shem Tov's horse that took in that, what's it got to do with me? I don't own a horse, and I don't have Ruach HaKodesh, and what good does it do me? I like a story where I could take a lesson out of the book. When I read the Art Scroll books, I read the Art Scroll books a lot. Reb Moshe, Reb Yankiv, every one of these books, you read the book, has an effect on you. You read the Reb Moshe book, so you're just good to everybody. You read the Reb Yankiv book, you don't tell a lie for a week. Right? You read the Steipler book, you just sit and learn until 2 in the morning. Every sefer has a certain effect. Read a Rav Pam book, you're just walking around with this smile all day, talking in a low voice. The one book that didn't have any effect on me, I don't remember how many, was Reb Chaim Ozer Grzinski. Got nothing to do with me. Reb Chaim Ozer, the man's an absolute genius, who can do 7 things at one time. Beseder, I'm a kabbalah, but I didn't have anything to do with me. Very little effect. It's too far removed. Like something that's got Ogela Maisa, stories Ogela Maisa. You ask about the connecting miracle stories. You certainly can't tell fry audiences. You lose credibility because they think that we're a bunch of superstitious, medieval, that sort of thing. That's the last thing I want to communicate to them. That we building anything on miracles. We don't do that. Don't go there. For from guys, you want to entertain.